on the altar. This is the holy bringing in of the sacrifice that has to take place. And then everything takes place on Passover, the day of the Passover lamb. In the book of Leviticus, who is it that is in charge of lifting up the sacrifice, of offering the sacrifice on the holy days? Who is it? The priests are in charge. That is why Messiah is taken to the priests. They didn't realize it, but God realized it. He's seized, he's arrested, he's brought near to the priests. Another act of hikriv, the bringing nearing the altar. The priest through the temple guard sees him at the doorway of the temple in Gethsemane, right outside the eastern gate, just like the sacrifice was first touched by the priest by the doorway of the tabernacle. Then they put him on trial. Why? Because the sacrifice must be pure and tested to be without defect. And who's the one who determines it? The priest determines it and pronounces it. So they put him on trial. Now they're trying to find him guilty. Nevertheless, they don't realize they're unwittingly fulfilling the sacred mystery of Leviticus. They are trying to find all the guilt, and it says they could not find anything that it shows that he is spotless. And so it was prophesied in Isaiah 53, though he had done no violence, nor was there any deceit found in his mouth. And then what happens? It's written in Matthew 26, verse 67, then they struck him undoubtedly in the head. Why? The offerer and the sacrifice must make contact with each other. Through the hand of the offerer must touch the sacrifice, namely the head. When the sacrifice is to be offered up for Israel, the priests must touch the sacrifice with their hands. Interesting, the Greek word in the gospel for the striking of their hands means the palms of their hands. That is the palms that are used in the samach, the touching of the head of the sacrifice. And by this, the sins of the offerer are transferred onto the sacrifice with a confession of the sin. So the high priest of the priests, they declare him guilty of blasphemy. He's not guilty of blasphemy. They are guilty of blasphemy because this is God. So they are guilty. So what's happening is they're actually confessing their own sins upon him. And their guilt is coming on him. And this is the high priest. He represents the priesthood, and the priesthood represents all of Israel. So all the sins of Israel are coming on him. And Israel is the priestly nation. It represents all nations. So the sins of all are coming on him. And he is led forth by the priests, just as the sacrifice has to be led by the priests to the place of execution. I mean, they didn't know what they were doing. They're acting out of evil, but God is still sovereign. And throughout it all, it's the priests who are watching the whole process in the background. They're making sure he gets sacrificed. Why? Because the priests that's their job. They have to make sure that the sacrifice is offered up. And you say, well, they were sinful. Yeah, it's sin causing the sacrifice to die. That's how it goes. And he's brought to the Roman soldier, the Roman governor first. Why? Because it will be this specific act that will manifest the fact that the sacrifice is not only dying for Israel, he's dying for the world. For Jew and Gentile, for Rome represents the world. And the governor represents Rome. And the soldiers represent the governor. So it all represents the world. On Yom Kippur, the two goats are presented before the multitude, and then the one is chosen to escape, and the other is chosen to go to the sacrifice, to the altar. The one who is chosen to go to the altar is called Ladonai, to the Lord. And so 2,000 years ago, on this day, Pontius Pilate presents two lives before the multitudes. One is Messiah, the other is guilty, a criminal. And the two are chosen from them. The one becomes the one who escapes, but Messiah is chosen to be the sacrifice. On Yom Kippur, he becomes Ladonai, to the Lord. On Yom Kippur, the high priest, after dealing with the sin offering or the scapegoat, the high priest must wash himself. Anybody have anything to do with this, must wash themselves with water. So Pontius Pilate, after taking part in the death of Messiah, washes his hands in water. On Yom Kippur, When the sacrifice is chosen, we know this from the writings of the rabbis, at the time of Messiah, when the sacrifice and scapegoat were chosen, they would be marked with scarlet. Scarlet would be put on them. So what happens? After Messiah is chosen to be slain, the Roman soldiers put something on his body. They put a robe of scarlet. For the sins as scarlet, for the sins of the world passing upon him, marking him to bear the sins of the world to the altar. And then the Roman soldiers begin striking him. Why? Because those who offer the sacrifice must make contact with him. So it says specifically they struck his head, the second samach. And then he's led through the procession, through the streets of Jerusalem, to the place of the execution. It is the final sacred bringing in of the sacrifice, the final hikriv. He's moved in, the leading of the sacrifice to his altar. The altar of the sacrifice in the temple has 4 corners, 4 points. The sacrifice of Messiah is on a wooden altar, but it also has 4 points. And the sacrifice is pierced, so Messiah is pierced. It's specifically written in the Gospel of John that he was sacrificed at the time of the sacrifice of the Passover lamb, and that his bones weren't broken because the sacrifice cannot have broken bones. So it is written in Isaiah 53, he is led like a lamb to the slaughter. And it says in Isaiah 53, he made his life a guilt offering. The word in the Hebrew is even more radical. The word in Hebrew is asham, same word as Leviticus. The asham is the offering for guilt that actually becomes guilt. The offering for trespass that actually becomes the trespass. And which has that strange property of being both the offering that takes it away and the one that becomes it. So Messiah is not only being offered for guilt, he becomes the guilt. Not only the guilt, and in the hata'ah, the sin, he becomes the sin. And that explains the mysterious verse from 2 Corinthians 5:21. The same thing, in the same chapter, you look at verse, it says, he made him who knew no sin to become sin for us, that we might become the righteousness of God. He who knew no sin, not to just take away our sins, yes, but to become sin. It says in Romans 8:3, what the law couldn't do,